Reaching your peak when you're young never seems to be a good thing. Unfortunately, most small towns peaked in the 1800s. By the 1900s, villages that were hubs of activity began to transition into residential communities. This is the story of Clandeboye, Ontario. My name is Angie, and I'll be your host for this episode of Main Streets Canada, Clandeboye Edition. Thank you for joining me as we journey through the past of small towns in Ontario, discovering the main players and events that took place before our time. Before we get started, please click like and subscribe, and we will begin. Clandeboye, Ontario is located on Highway 4 and County Road 20, approximately 30 kilometers northwest of London. Situated in Biddulph Township of Middlesex County, today it boasts a population of approximately 30 people. Originally, the village was known as the Village of Ireland, but when the post office opened in 1836, it was called McGillivray, named after a nearby township. That was until the arrival of Patrick Flanagan. Patrick Flanagan was a native of Mayo County, Ireland, previously working as a contractor on the Rideau Canal in 1830. He goes on to build the first hotel and distillery in Waterdown, Wentworth County, then raised a company for Captain Field during the Rebellion troubles. Finally, in 1844, he settled in what is now known as Clandeboye, then referred to as Flanagan's Corners in his honor. When Flanagan arrived, he built a store and hotel, effectively putting what would soon become Clandeboye on the map. By the 1880s, the village was booming, providing 4 hotels and a number of businesses. This boom, however, did have an end, and this end occurred when the Grand Trunk Trail bypassed it by only a couple of miles, and then the village faced several major fires. The first fire was S.C. Hershey's store, which burned May 29, 1881, followed by the Easton Grist Mill, burning only a few months later, September 24, 1881. The train unfortunately would not arrive until 1882, when a line was built through the community by the London, Huron and Bruce Railway. It was then that the name was once again changed to Clandeboye. Clandeboye was selected in honor of the Marquis of Dufferin's hometown within County Down, Ireland. The Marquis served as Governor-General of Canada from 1872 through 1878. Prior to 1882, the highways of Biddulph Township stayed fairly safe, with only 3 accidents being recorded, 2 of which I was able to locate small bits of information on. The first was only a brief mention stating the funeral of James McGrath, his wife, his brother Matthew, and Miss Ellen Blake, all victims of the Clandeboye accident, took place January 6, 1881. No other details could be found on this incident. The second happened in 1882, when Mrs. George Port and Mr. James Dagg were driving the road from Clandeboye to Lucan. When nearing the Sauble Bridge, their horse became frightened by a pile of material laid on the side of the road to be used in rebuilding the culvert. The horse bolted and threw the occupants of the buggy over the embankment. Mrs. Port had her leg broken, and Mr. Dagg was also injured. Mrs. Port sought compensation and received a whopping settlement of $3.75. Mr. Dagg also sought compensation and received a whopping 75 cents in full compensation. Not exactly a get-rich-quick scheme. On May 19, 1886, another fire broke out at the residence of Daniel Schaff, postmaster, and the post office at Clandeboye was destroyed. The building would be rebuilt, unlike the grist mill, but it would not remain forever. By 1888, Clandeboye claimed 250 residents. Daniel Schaff was still postmaster. The general stores were operated by Blackwell, Hooper, and McGillivray. John Flanagan and George Port were hotel keepers. Mr. Sutton, a lumber dealer. Miss Hodgins, a dressmaker. Charles Friars, a weaver. And last but not least, L. Bice was a wagon maker. Soon progress would catch up with this small town. Farther distances were able to be traveled with cars and trains more quickly, bypassing carriage travel and small villages like Clandeboye. These villages would either transition or die. Fortunately for Clandeboye, they transitioned to a rural residential community. There are no longer industries or businesses feeding this community, and the residents must commute to their jobs in neighboring towns, increasing the traffic on the road, making Clandeboye more known recently as a terrible curve which has cost quite a few young people their lives. This concludes this episode of Main Street Canada, Clandeboye Edition. I hope you enjoyed the journey today, and I invite you to join me again soon, when we will travel through other small towns and forgotten locations, learning the history of what's at our doorstep. Thanks again. Please be sure to subscribe. I hope to see you soon. Have a great day.